Hi, my name is Noreen Alcyone. I am the High Priestess and Shaman of the Veils of Alcyone. So today we are going to discuss how you can amp up your manifestations and create your dream life by working with the 4 goals of life in Hindu tradition. These 4 goals are known as dharma, moksha, kama, and artha. So, dharma is your soul's purpose. Moksha is transcendence, and how your soul transcends the blockages and attachments that keep you in cycles of not embodying your dharma and your true self. Kama is what brings you pleasure and how you enjoy life. And artha is your environment and how you create an environment that supports you in living out your dharma. So, when manifesting, by working with these 4 aspects, first, you need to be in touch with yourself and with your soul. And you need to be honest with yourself about what your dharma is. And that is usually what naturally inspires you. It is something that you are naturally drawn to at a soul level. So once you know what your dharma is, let that become a guiding light or star for you. Let it shine so brightly, it becomes a star that naturally anchors its light into the earth and into you. The more anchored you are in aligning with your dharma, the more you will be able to align yourself with the choices you need to make to be living a life where you are embodying your soul's purpose. Now, this is where it gets interesting and why I want to jump to the artha aspect next. So, artha is your environment, and whether or not you live in an environment that supports and empowers you in living out your dharma. So once you know what your dharma is, and you become very clear about that, and you start making choices that align you with your dharma, it brings you closer to your soul, and it brings your soul closer to you. And all of a sudden, your life becomes so much more clear because you are being more clear with yourself, and because you have your star, your dharma, which is illuminating your path and all that is around you. So this clarity is going to reveal where in your environment you've created situations that don't support your dharma or your soul's purpose, so that you can transcend that level of consciousness that created those experiences to begin with. Remember, transcendence is moksha. So, for example, let's say you get really clear about your dharma and you start making choices that will align you more with embodying your soul and your soul's purpose. And then all of a sudden, your boyfriend or girlfriend, a certain friend or family member starts telling you that you will never be successful, or they show other signs of removing their support from you. That is because when you get closer to your soul, it naturally makes you more psychic. The truths you couldn't see before begin to get exposed to you. So embodying your soul will naturally show you where your reality does and does not support you at a soul level to live your dharma or your soul's purpose, so that you can uncover what subconscious and unconscious beliefs you have that are creating the lack of support or blockage to embodying more of your dharma, so that you can transcend that moksha. Now, this can be really scary for people because a lot of people don't want to embody more of their truth due to the fact that it can make them lose their relationships, or that other aspects of their life will have to drastically change to match their soul's frequency. But what you have to remember is that what your life currently looks like is fitting a version of you that may not be in alignment with the version of yourself that you need to be if you want to fully embody your dharma. And this is where manifesting through dharma and artha gets really interesting, is that it can also reveal ancestral patterns. So let's say that when you start living a life where you are beginning to embody more of your dharma and you start to become more in tune with your soul, it exposes unsupportive friends or an unsupportive partner, or all of a sudden you start having issues at your job. You now have more clarity regarding your life, and you can begin to examine why you manifested a friend, job, or romantic partner that didn't support you at a soul level in the first place. Perhaps when you were a child, you wanted to be an actor or a ballerina, and those roles were in resonance with your soul. But you were told you couldn't, and that you needed to become a doctor instead. Now, this reveals an ancestral pattern, as the level of consciousness that didn't support your dharma was one that you were born into. And it reveals that your ancestors were also operating under that same level of consciousness too, meaning that they were also unsupported and living a life in alignment with their soul and their dharma. Now, this is a powerful realization, and it is not meant to make you angry at your parents or ancestors. It is here to awaken you to the fact that you can now become a generational cycle breaker, which also plugs us into the sequence 3, 6, 9, and I'll get more into that later. So the truth is, a lot of people are born into a family structure where the beliefs they are taught through the indoctrination of their circumstances pretty much decides their entire life for them. As artha is the environment, it's the foundation or structure that keeps you in a certain framework or experience. It's literally the matrix. So when you hear someone say they want to break free from the matrix, they are saying that they are living in an oppressive artha and that they would like to transcend moksha. Keep in mind, not everyone is living the same experience. So if you grew up in an unsupportive environment, you are naturally going to be around other people who experienced the same thing. That is resonance. And that may lead you to think that life is inherently a certain way, as that is what it has been in your experience and in the experience of those who you know. But there are people out there in the world living an entirely different experience. And to be born into an unsupportive environment can lead you to continuously making choices that keep you in the original structure that you were born into, even if you think you've transcended that structure. It's the concept of the apple never falls too far from the tree. Meaning that if when growing up you were told things like, you can't be a ballerina, it won't pay well, you need to become a doctor, that lack of support at a soul level to live your truth then goes on to you choosing unsupportive romantic partners and friends. And then you create a life that keeps you in the same cycle of experience that you were originally born into, even though the picture of your experience looks different. remember that energy is never destroyed. It is simply transformed into a different form. No longer are you the young child being told you can't be a ballerina. You are now the adult whose life doesn't support you to embody your soul's truth. And that cycle continues to get passed down generation after generation through the indoctrination of consciousness. So, what's important to remember now is that from the perspective of time alchemy, the past and the future don't actually exist, meaning that everything is happening right now, and to live is to die, which, to be clear, we are not talking about physical death, but the transformation of consciousness. Meaning that in every moment we are continuously dying and being reborn into the next frame, and always into the current consciousness structure that we are resonating with. The story is something we create to differentiate one moment from the next moment, but the story is only something that we are experiencing based on what we are vibrationally aligning ourselves with at a belief and resonance level. Everything is consciousness. This also means that you cannot blame your ancestors for your level of consciousness, because you could transcend that level of consciousness, moksha, and be reborn into a different experience at any given moment. And if you are unhappy with where you are at, that is why it's so important to start living a life more in alignment with your truth and soul. Because by doing so, you will quickly bring yourself the clarity that you need to see where and how and why you've created a life not in alignment with your truth, so that you can find transcendence of that and experience a new cycle where you are supported in being who you are without resistance. And now we move into the 369 aspect of this. So you can see how this soul work naturally connects you to your inner child or willpower. This is the third chakra. It also connects you to your vision, the star, and your ancestral body, which is the sixth chakra. And it connects you to your soul, or in Antohai alchemy, which is a type of shamanism I have studied, it connects you to your ninth chakra. 3, 6, 9. Now you are not just working with these 4 Hindu principles, you are also working with 3, 6, 9, which is the Fibonacci sequence, and that naturally creates cycles, as that is how the mathematical formula plays out. Revealing the path that the soul takes continuously as you are born, experience life, and then go through death and into the underworld for life renewal, and then being reborn back into a new cycle of life and into death and down into the underworld again. Once you know and understand this cycle, it makes having life-changing shifts in consciousness easier and easier because you understand the pattern, showing us that when you get really clear about living your dharma, you naturally start living your truth, and you get the clarity you need to transcend cycles at an inner child, ancestral, and soul level. And now on to how karma plays into all of this. Karma is what brings you pleasure, and how you can experience more pleasure in life. So pleasure is a feeling, and feelings are emotions. And when you begin to do what brings you joy, you naturally get closer to the truth of who you are, and you begin to transcend negative emotions, and that naturally aligns you with a different resonance, which creates more experiences of pleasure and of joy and of living your truth. If you liked this lecture on how to manifest your dream life by working with the 4 goals of life in Hindu tradition, then make sure to subscribe and give me a like for more sacred alchemy and shamanism.